Twitter.
The action plan includes, as they say, commitments in key areas of accountability,
Thank you.
governance, independent sport safety checks, and standards education and training. They go into details about universal code of conduct, implementing, yeah, but comprehensive tracking or tracking reporting system for all complaints that with there. More training about. And what I like about this one is additional focus on masculinity, consent, and toxic behaviors, because everyone talks about this being part of hockey culture. I don't like using that because I don't. I honestly believe it's not. I think this is a toxic part of what happens when you don't when you aren't being honest and trying to help guide young boys particularly. um and I think we need to make sure that people can't say that anymore. Like, I may disagree with it, but I understand why they say it. So I think that's fantastic. um they're going to do some comprehensive reviews of all training programs and implementing enhanced character screening for all high performance players, mandating that breaching the code of conduct or failing to participate in any investigation could result in a lifetime ban from Hockey Canada. Prioritizing and investing in robust department focused on the safety inclusive sport initiatives as well. So, and then they're conducting independent third-party review of all their governance and structures. They'll become. They're gonna go into the oversight movement that the federal government is putting together, and establishing a new independent and confidential mechanism for the intake of maltreatment complaints for all levels of hockey.
Yeah, so that's kind of the overview of what was announced today. Some of those ones at the end there that Sean mentioned were announced a couple of weeks ago, or almost a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just some general comments. My first time on the podcast since all of this kind of came to light, had a chance to comment on it. It's just really sad that it takes withdrawal of funding to actually get some movement on these kinds of things. You would have thought that just the on public shame and embarrassment alone that these things would have been brought forward by Hockey Canada, but no, it wasn't until government funding and more particularly corporate sponsorships disappeared that Hockey Canada started to take this seriously. The action plan, you can read it on Hockey Canada's website. They've got a link to it on their social media platforms. A lot of buzzwords, sounds good. We will find out in due course how much those words really mean. It will come down to that independent oversight component to make sure that all these things are followed. And I want to be optimistic because hockey's the game I love the most. So, and this has put a big stain on our sport in Canada. And of greater concern long term is it's a sport that's already been struggling to attract new participants at the youth levels. And then when you hear about things like registration fees being used to build a hush fund to settle sexual assault claims and try and bury allegations like that, for somebody out there that's a parent that's already starting to wonder whether it's worth putting their kid in hockey, well, that certainly didn't help the case, did it? So long term, there's very massive implications for Canadian hockey with what's come about here, and we just hope that it doesn't down the road sort of impact our country's competitiveness in the sport around the world. It's something that we take great pride in as Canadians, and it being our game. And maybe that's what kind of led us to some trouble in the sport with trying to silence things, right? And we've talked before about other questionable conduct. So, for example, at the Chicago Blackhawks organization, and how it always seems to come back to the whole winning at all costs thing. And until that attitude disappears, you can demand people be fired. You can say scrap the whole thing and burn it down and start over. If until that winning at all costs attitude is is kept in check, I think people are right to be a little bit skeptical about all of this, and whether this action plan is really going to mean much. But the next couple of days in Ottawa with these hearings will be very tough questions of the people that are having to testify, and it'll be interesting to see what they have to say.